Hello and welcome everyone to A Talk with Toni. Today is an up-close chat with a recovering COVID-19 resident of Henrico County in Virginia. My guest, Ms. Melva Hawkins. She is a mother and real estate agent that was just carrying out her day-to-day life. Periodically, her family would brainstorm to find a date and a time for a massive family gathering. They decided on March 2020, yes, this past March, that was the best time for the majority of the family. My guest, Ms. Melva, she had agreed to host a family gathering for this year. Melva, thank you for taking time to talk with me and allowing me and others to understand your journey through COVID-19. You are greatly appreciated, I must say that. I cannot thank you enough for agreeing to let us understand and you share your real life touch with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Today is actually a good day.
Okay.
Well, I have good and bad, but today is a good day for me.
Thank you. I am so glad to hear that.
Right.
Let me start by asking about that family gathering. How did y'all get together and decide that you were going to be the one to host it this time?
I like planning the family gatherings because we have so much fun. We sit around, we laugh, we eat, we just fellowship. There's no confusion, no fussing, just a really good time. We play games, and I like to cook, so I don't mind cooking for my family.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
And we've been trying to do it at least twice a year to get, just gather and celebrate each other and love on each other a little bit.
That is fantastic. So with your family, is that a large group of people? Or
it's a lot of us.
It's a lot of you. Okay.
Yeah. So me alone, I have 28 first cousins.
Okay.
So these are not just my first cousins. These are my second, third, and fourth cousins. So it's all of us coming together, having fun.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, let me just dive into some questions about the COVID-19. When did you first start having your symptoms, and what type of symptoms did you have?
Well, initially I was feeling ill in February, and they said it was an upper respiratory. So I come home with a bunch of medicine, and I went to the doctor on that Monday. That Wednesday, I was like, I'm not getting any better. I don't feel any better. They said, no, it's got to run its course. So I complete all the meds, and I start to feel better. So I go back to my daily routine. Then in March, I start all over again with the same set of symptoms. In February, they gave me antibiotics and prednisone. And so in March, I start the same symptoms over again. But my father was feeling sick, and I was his I was his caregiver. I saw my dad every day. I made sure he ate. I cooked his meals for him, and just took care of my dad and worked. So around the end of March, my dad wound up going in the hospital. I want to say on the 23rd. He passed from COVID.
Oh my! Wow.
I went in on I left work on the 25th. So no, my father went in on the 24th. I went to urgent care on the 25th, and they said I had an upper respiratory infection.
Okay.
And told me to take Corsetin. I go home, and I just continually go downhill from there. So that Monday, I told my boyfriend, I said, I think we need to call the ambulance. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Wow.
And I had, I didn't have any fever at the time, but I kept coughing. I had chills and muscle aches, and I could not catch my breath. So I go into the hospital on the 30th of March. My dad is already in ICU. I didn't know it when I went in. So on the 4th of March, my father passes away. 10 hours later, I go into ICU on a ventilator for 13 days.
Wow.
So I don't remember any of that. But the last thing I remember having a conversation, a friend of mine called, and I was like, I can't talk. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I hear the nurse say she's going into ICU, but I didn't realize they were talking about me. And I just kept saying, somebody help me. Please help me. I can't breathe. And that's the last thing I remember saying.
So when did you actually get your diagnosis of COVID-19?
When I got to the hospital.
When you got in the hospital, do you remember what the testing for it was like?
initially they did x-rays. They didn't even
Okay.
test for the COVID. They said I had pneumonia. So they did x-rays of my lungs, and they said I had fluid in both lungs. And then a man said, did we test her? They said no. I do remember that. And they came in and tested me, and they put the swab up my nose and did that. And they never told me I had it, but they just, initially I remember hearing I had double pneumonia.
Okay.
And then I was put in a room. They said they're going to keep me. I was like, okay. And for 2 days, I just could not catch my breath. I couldn't breathe. And I was put on oxygen right away.
Okay.
I was put on oxygen right away.
Okay. So before the ventilator, you really didn't know that you had COVID-19 or coronavirus?
Now, I found out when I was telling the nurse I can't breathe. She said, well, you do have COVID. Your test came back positive.
Wow.
And I said, but I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I do remember them turning my oxygen intake up. And I kept saying it hurts. It felt like there was this huge weight on my chest. I kept saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Wow.
And that particular nurse, she's like, oh no, she's got to go. But at the time, I'm thinking they're talking about someone else.
Wow.
So then I was put on a ventilator. I don't remember any of that. They had to get approval. And my son's stationed in San Diego.
Okay.
He's my next of kin, and he had to give approval for everything. And it's kind of hard for him because he's in the military. He's away, and he's getting these calls that his mom is really sick and not doing well at all.
Wow. So what happened with the family gathering? Had y'all completed that, or?
No, I said to them then, I said, you guys, I don't feel well. I can't host it. And so my cousin Casa and my cousin Charmaine was like, no, just get better, and we'll come together. And then I said, well, we're going to do it for my birthday. I just don't feel good now, thinking I would be okay by my birthday. But for my birthday, I was in an induced coma with the ventilator.
Wow.
So I don't even remember, because when I woke up, I was like, well, can I go home now? You know, I was just like ready to go. So I didn't even realize that I had missed my birthday or anything.
Wow. Now, what day was your birthday on?
April 7th.
Okay. Now, how long?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Now, how long were you in the hospital?
I went in March 30th. I left the hospital March 22nd, and I went to rehab because I couldn't write. I couldn't write when I woke up. I couldn't stand. The very first time I said, can I stand up? Can I get in a chair? Because I wanted to get out of that bed. And he went to move me, and I just fell on the floor. I hit the floor. I could not stand. My legs were weak. So it took for them, because then I got upset and I started to cry. And he's upset because he let me fall. And I was like, it's not your fault. It's my fault. I had some great doctors and nurses. So, but we got me up, and I had to get back in the bed. So I had to go through physical therapy just to stand. I had to go through physical therapy to be able to write, because I didn't have that much. I didn't have any strength in my hand, and I couldn't even feed myself initially.
Wow, that is so sad.
For whatever reason, I was just extremely weak.
Wow, that is so sad. My goodness. Do you know what type of medication regimen they had you on? Did they explain the medicine and what the medicine
No,
was?
like beforehand, all I ever took was blood pressure and Zyrtex for my sinuses. That's it.
Okay.
So I know I was taking my blood pressure pills. I was on something for cholesterol, but that had a side effect for me. So I had to stop taking that because it was making it was like my muscles and my joints, everything ached.
Okay.
And one night I kept saying, in the bed, I said, my bed is broke or something, because my whole left side hurt. I couldn't do anything with my left side at all. From my shoulder down to my calves, I was in pain.
Wow.
I know they gave me different pain meds trying to see what would work for me. But I kept thinking it was my bed. But then all of a sudden it hit me, if it was my bed, all of me would hurt.
Wow.
So they took me off it was a cholesterol medicine. It begins with the A, and I can't think of how to say it. They took me off of that, and then they had to give me some high pain dosage because I was in serious pain. So I went to rehab. I was there for 7 days. Then I had rehab at home for 7 weeks. and then I do outpatient rehab because I still have issues with my left side.
Okay.
And they're saying, so I had x-rays last Thursday. They're saying that arthritis has settled in my shoulder.
Wow.
And times where I could just sit here and pain will shoot out. And I'm like, oh my Lord, I got to stop. I can't do anything till it subsides.
My goodness.
I've had a couple of CAT scans and MRIs because my eye drooped. So when I came off of the ventilator, somehow or another my eye was drooping. And one of my cousins noticed it, and she was like, what's going on with your eye? And I was like, nothing. She was like, it's drooping. And it was like I had, for lack of a better term, a lazy eye. So we asked the doctor about that. So they did a CAT scan and an MRI to make sure I didn't have a stroke.
Okay.
And at the time I didn't realize it either. They were looking to make sure I didn't have an aneurysm. Okay. But I didn't. Thank God I didn't have any of those.
Okay. No stroke and no aneurysm.
No stroke or aneurysm. And they were telling me that could have been a side effect. But I didn't. And I've done a pulmonary test. My lungs are a lot better and a lot clearer.
That's good.
But I still have the shortness of breath. And I have the shortness of breath. My shoulder is in a lot of pain, and so is my left hip side. And I just have exhaustion.
Wow.
Some days I'm great. Like I went to the grocery store Friday, and I went by one other store. I slept all day Saturday. I could not. I got a shower, and that was a chore for me.
Wow.
So I get exhausted easily.
So is it safe to say that you're not able to return to work at this time?
No, I have not, unfortunately. And I know when all of this started and I realized it, I was like, oh, I'll be to work in May. I'll be back. And it hit me like I was really sick. I think I didn't grasp the severity of it.
Wow. Well, I'm hearing in the news that some states the hospitals or some healthcare workers are calling to follow up on patients that had tested positive for the coronavirus and are home, just to see how they're doing, to see if their needs are being met. Is that type of service being supplied to you?
The only person I've been in touch with is my primary care and my pulmonary doctor.
Okay.
Because I've had appointments with them, but I've never spoken to anyone at the hospital. Or at the rehab center I was at.
Okay. Well, another thing, I know we still don't have a whole lot of information about the coronavirus. They're still trying to do testing to find a cure or treatment or a vaccine. Is antibody testing something in your future? Is that something that you have considered?
Because I don't think my body could go through this again, I would.
You would? Okay.
I don't think my body could handle another bout. I have one cousin that stayed in contact with my nurse, and she's a respiratory therapist. And she would relay it to my son so he could understand it.
Okay.
And I guess because I didn't understand the severity of it, and everybody was like, well, you survived. I was like, well, what's wrong with me, really? Because I don't remember any of it. And she's like, yeah, you were pretty much on your way out. And then I saw the stats that most people that go on a ventilator, only 20% survive.
Right, exactly.
So I had no clue. And my father was put on a ventilator, and he didn't survive. You know, and my father last year, he beat prostate cancer. He rung the bell. We were good. We were praising God for his healing. And coronavirus took him out 6 months later.
So sad.
Yeah.
So sad. Was there any other people that you were aware of that come down with the coronavirus that may have had contact with you or your father?
In my family, my sister tested positive, but she never went to the hospital.
Okay.
And an uncle and a younger cousin all tested positive.
Wow.
But they were never hospitalized. They self-quarantined and they stayed in. But because I was that central link to my sister, my aunt and my uncle and my dad, 9 times out of 10, I brought it into our circle. because I was still going out. My sister worked also,
Mm-hmm.
but I was going out working. I worked 2 jobs. I'm a property manager and a realtor.
Okay.
Um, one of my tenants told me she had it,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me after the fact, but I don't know of anyone else.
Okay. Well, it's
My boyfriend, his pastor, they just buried him from it. He
oh,
had been in the hospital for almost a month and a half, and he passed away.
okay.
And they buried him last week.
Is that in the same county that you lived in Henrico?
He's a different county, but still in Virginia with us.
Virginia.
Yeah. And he was 65,
Uh-huh.
no major ailments or anything.
Wow. That is so sad.
Mhm.
As we, like I say, we hear in the news that people that have the chronic conditions are the one that's more prone.
Right.
But like I say, as we learn different things, they're learning that some people that don't have the chronic conditions are still at risk. With that being said, is there anything that you would like to share with me and others that may be listening later on about how to keep themselves safe from coronavirus?
My biggest thing is, even though you put the face mask on, and I'll have one here now, I've read somewhere that if something seeps to the side, you still can get the virus, because like if you have the pockets on the side of your face mask, that you still could, you're still inhaling someone else's germs. So you want to be careful with that. Also, I have 4 bottles of hand sanitizers in my purse. I have it 99.9%, because I saw some that's selling 80 and 70%. It's really not going to do you any good. I don't do the gloves, but I do sanitize all day long. I also have sanitizing wipes in my car if I have to go out. I will go to the grocery store because I feel like no one else can pick my fruit but me. But other than that, there's no reason for me to go to let's say Kohl's or JC Penney's or somewhere like that. I'm not going anywhere, so you don't need any clothes. Stay in the house. So, I just don't go out. I went out with my sister and my cousin one day. I think I had a panic attack because there was just so many people.
Yeah.
And so many people without a mask on. And I was like, y'all, I want to go home. And I literally had an anxiety attack because I saw so many people going in the store without a mask on.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even if you're not trying to protect yourself, protect that next person.
Right.
Also protect your family members, because you don't know what you're going to bring home to someone else. Right. So that's a big thing. Even if they don't want to protect themselves, but think about your family.
Right. That's so true. That is so true. Well, that concludes my talk with Miss Melva. I really do appreciate it. Again, thank you so much. Everybody, just please stay safe. Take it from somebody that has been there. Wear your mask, wash your hands, cover it up. Stay home if you don't have to be there. Let's just be respectful of each other and try to keep this all safe, because we're all are in this together. Okay. All right. Again, like I say, thank you, Miss Melva, for joining me today. And you have a wonderful day. My prayers are continuously with you and other people that may come down with this virus. Like I say, thank you again, and you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Alrighty.